And we're live. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another live stream, first one for a while. And as promised, we're going to be going through something that I know a lot of people want to see. We're going to have a look at the new concepts, character designs for December, and specifically, we're going to look at some of their profile cards. I am afraid to say I've been a meanie, and I've blurred a lot of it out. So there are a few tidbits here. You can all speculate in chat and have a guess about what else they might have. But I am joined by Simon, who's well, what's your job title, Simon? You introduce yourself.
All-round good egg. No, Chief Dog Spotty. I answer to all of the above. So no, obviously, you guys probably know me most for looking, supporting and helping James to run the Wayfarer program. But I've been involved from the very early stages of the original Kickstarter with beta testing and play testing. So looking forward to releasing some of these little tidbits to you of what we've been working on recently.
I guess you are mostly here in your capacity as a beta tester, really.
Absolutely.
We've been testing these recently remotely, socially distanced, which does make life a little bit tricky, but yeah, it is what it is. So we are going to try and get this done in like 30 to 40 minutes. If anybody's got any questions, I definitely don't promise to answer them, but feel free to throw them our way anyway. Hello to everybody in chat. We've got quite a few on YouTube and a few on Facebook as well. Shall I just stop waffling and get started?
I get the feeling that these guys are here for something, based on the number of messages I've had from different people.
Okay, well, so I'm just going to be screen sharing, and we start off with Plage. Now, I definitely, before we move too far onwards, I want to point out to people, if you haven't read each of these guys have got little fluff descriptions in the store. We'll expand on their fluff at some stage in the future, but they're well worth reading. Just want to make sure everybody's seen them to get a little bit of background of these guys. But Plage is somebody people might recognize the name, as throughout the rulebook there are a bunch of letters, correspondence from one guy to a monk, effectively a librarian, and the person who's writing the letters is Alefangus Plage, this guy here. And he is a retired artifactor, recently brought back to activity, yeah, he's an interesting one rules wise. So we can see I've blacked out or blurred out the weapon, but you can see his stats. He's very poor close combat, decent agility. I think he's the most intelligent model we've seen so far.
Absolutely, and as he should be. As he should be,
yeah. He is a professor after all, and he's just got the regular Wayfarer handpick. So not much to see here. Let's have a look at the back of his card. So I have been a meanie, of course, and blurred most of this out. First thing to note is he's 19 points. 19 points, a 40 millimeter base sized model with 5 wounds as normal. But let's have a look at this blink move. So when declaring a move action, this model may perform a special blink move. Reposition the model anywhere within 5 inches of its starting position. No movement path is declared, and reactions may only be made to the starting and destination points. So instantly, yeah, Simon, what are your thoughts on that?
Do you know what? The thing that drew me to the Artefactors, apart from the aesthetic, was just the movement shenanigans that they're able to put off, and this just falls so well into the theme of the Artefactors. I can't wait to start blinking around the field and watching the militia sit there going, I can't get a damn shot.
Yeah. Well, we'll see all the beardy players setting up the tables of scenery, measuring 6 inches between every terrain element to ensure that you can't get this off. But yeah, super useful. You can see already he's not a combat-oriented model at all, but you can see as far as objective grabbing is concerned, this is going to be super useful. So let's push on. Let's go. you over
he's essentially going to be the most agile fat panda you've ever met.
Without a doubt. And also something else to think about is with his intelligence of 8, he's going to be a fantastic commander. And blinking up to a high point in order to gain line of sight to command better is obviously going to be something that's will be very useful in putting a decent plan together. So let's move on to one side. You'll see the leader cards have had a little bit of a redesign. There was a fair amount of wasted real estate having them vertical, so we're going to do them horizontal from now on. And with these concepts, I'm going to show you one side of each of the leader ability cards that are going to ship with each of these models. So they're two-sided. You have a choice of two. I think actually in every case there's a model specific side. So this is only Plage, and then on the other side we've got a generic one that could work with Nyx or work with a future Artefactor leader as well. I should also just point out, don't worry about all these lines. These are basically screen captures from the layout software. So you're not going to have all these ugly lines when you get your printed card. But yeah, so this is Plage only. While this leader is conscious, all friendly Artefactor models are immune to blind. And if they had run and gun, they also gain quick shot. What is quick shot, I hear you all ask? So yeah, this is another good one. There's also going to be a close combat equivalent of this at some stage in the future. But quick shot, when making an opposed shoot test, resolve your die roll as though it were unopposed, applying damage and effects as normal. Then, if the enemy model is still able to hit, compare their die roll to yours in the normal way, applying damage and effects if they win.
Absolutely. I cannot wait to use this on somebody with run and gun.
Yeah.
Shoot you in the face and then get out of the way.
a model who's got run and gun and quick shot is pretty fun. And you know, there are all kinds of other tricks that we'll see with that. I don't want to say too much, but quick shot will be an important one. There's a couple of questions we've got on Plage on the blink move. So when you do a blink move, guys, it will replace his normal movement. So where his normal movement of 6 normally, if you blink move, you can only go 5. And the way it works is that you can only draw a line of sight from his start or his end point. So if you go from behind one building to another building, but you cross a gap, as long as your base isn't during the movement in that gap, you don't get seen. And it's an action point. One of the things that we probably didn't touch on most is that you can do it multiple times. So you can do it as many action points as you've got, but for each time you use it, you're going to have to do an agility roll. If you fail an agility roll, you can't do it anymore for that turn. Yeah, that's right. Rather like command, it works in the same way that you can keep on doing it until you fail or until you've run out of action points.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it's one of those things that you can instantly see the possibilities, and in theory, it sounds amazing. In practice, it's really useful, but it isn't quite as disgusting as it sounds, because you're just not going to be able to line up those perfect five from cover to cover, 5 from cover to cover, and go exactly where you want to go. So yeah, if you stack the board perfectly, then you probably could do some fairly unpleasant looking stuff. But of course, that's when you end up rolling an 8. And
of course, you're always guaranteed to fail at the most inopportune moment.
Yeah. It ain't that the truth. Okay, so let's move on. Let's have a look at Castle. So Castle, hang on, why am I not moving? There we go.
There we go.
So
people have been looking forward to this guy.
Yeah. So here I've grayed out different stuff. So here we can see he's 4/7. So Berengi style movement, 3/5 action points. Fists of Fury. They do 2/4 damage with knockdown and stun, which is absolutely no fun to be on the receiving end. I can tell you that for nothing. Particularly with a close combat ability of 7.
He is brutal on a charge, rolling 8s. You better not be missing.
Yeah. And there's we'll have a look at the back of the card, but I've grayed out a bunch of stuff which also leads into that a little bit and helps him out even more.
Yeah. For all of those who are wondering who Castle is, this is Kaneda's boss. This is the man that Kaneda answers to.
Yeah, that's right. So basically, Kaneda's father is the overboss of the entire district, and Castle is the underboss. So he's his second in command, based out of Skyton. And Kaneda is basically a bit useless and a bit impetuous and a bit, he's just sort of an all-round horrible character who doesn't have any of the subtlety or intelligence of his father.
Absolutely.
And so he's sort of farmed out, and Castle's got to keep him under control, and not do what Castle really wants to do all the time, which is just punch him in the face and break his nose every time he's insolent.
I can imagine, having played Kaneda recently quite a bit and speaking to others, I can imagine that Castle spends most of his time watching Kaneda with his head in his hand. For God's sake.
Yeah, just thinking one day, the moment your father's out the picture, you are ending up with a pair of cement boots.
Absolutely.
Okay, so thematically, while wanting to punch Kaneda in the face, but not being able to, punching underlings in the face is exactly what Castle is best at. So you can see he's got mobility, climb, because he's a Barengi. But motivate, when failing a command roll, you may choose to inflict 1 wound on the target model to treat the results as a pass. And it's a wound, not damage, so it's automatic. But effectively, you can keep on commanding to pull off some crazy plan, provided you're happy to take a bunch of wounds off your own dudes.
Yeah. Good luck ignoring this Barengi.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, Simon, any thoughts on this one? Anything?
This one, I'm really looking forward to this one. The model, as you guys know, is outstanding, but he's literally going to give a new way of playing what a firm leader looks like. Kaneda, a lot of people play him as kind of a sit back and try and tell his underlings what to do. Castle's going to show them what they're meant to be doing, and woe betide you if you do not listen to him.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the key point with all of these new leaders is that they are designed to change the way that you play the faction a little bit. And 100%. When we see future releases, some of the things that we've got in these leaders don't necessarily make sense now, but they will do after a few releases time.
When you guys get to see what we've been testing and dealing with, there's going to be a whole lot more excitement to come for you guys.
So let's have a look at one of the sides of Castle's leader ability card. So it's a trap. It's Castle only. If a charge, this is a bit of a wordy one, if a charge action is declared against a friendly model, firm models with the ambush skill who are within X, where X is the ambush movement value. In fact, I've changed the wording. It's ambush range. So any model with ambush who is within X, within the range of their ambush, may, before reactions are declared, swap with the friendly model and declare a close combat reaction. This doesn't count as an ambush. So effectively, you can charge somebody and end up instead facing an ambush model that was nearby instead of the model that you actually intended on charging.
Absolutely. So you look at somebody goes, I'm going to charge Mira. She's not too bad in combat, and then suddenly you've got Mako standing there instead.
Yeah. It's a pretty good one. And again, there are a fair few models with ambush in the firm. We've got some more stuff planned, which will lean into this as well. Cool. So, any questions on that one, or should we move on, Simon?
No, everybody seems to be pretty happy with that one. They're loving the idea of 1 wound is just cutting the pinky off. That's all it is.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so Mara, we're not showing much here because I'm mean-spirited, but she has a rather fun weapon. She's obviously got the machete that most militia have, and close combat is not necessarily their shtick. But shock rifle is 818, so it's a long-range weapon, really, and low damage long range. But it's Sunder 1, slow 2, 3, and it's a spray weapon as well. So up close and personal, the damage goes up to 4. And she's you can't see her stats, but she's at +1 due to the spray. So she's particularly effective at close quarters with this. And then in close quarters, she can slow the opponent down. So, you know, and possibly not get charged might be the thinking there.
She's an absolute monster to stop a charge. You know, if you're playing you know, you want to run in and try and murderize somebody, better not be within 8 inches of her, because you're probably not going to do it.
Yeah, she's. I can instantly see the bondsman being upset by her. So then on the back, not much to see here except the best thing ever, Bushwhacker. All friendly militia within 6 inches of this model gain headshot. Headshot is the reroll the feat die ability, so potential farming feats with that one as well. 6 inch bubble isn't super big, but it's hardly small either. Again, we're beginning to see there'll be a number of these abilities which create little what I call bubble buffs, but sort of range boosts effectively. Sorry, AoE boosts to your stats, boosts additional skills, that kind of thing. And yeah, you can imagine a bunch of setting up a firing position and having a whole bunch of militia benefiting from this is going to be pretty horrible. I have a feeling that, you know, Mara is very quickly going to be persona non grata, and you know, the person who absolutely your first goal plan is take her out to get rid of that Bushwhacker ability. Absolutely. You can imagine you know, a 12-inch bubble of the militia sitting there. Somebody pokes their head around a corner and suddenly their head's not there anymore. Yeah, absolutely. So moving on to her card. So firing positions, it's the Mara only side. While this leader's conscious, all friendly militia models are immune to knockdown, handy. And if they have Overwatch, they also gain slow 2/3 to their ranged weapon. So again, slowing down that charge with this kind of suppressive fire type of ability. Now, something to note here is the militia players might be scratching their heads thinking, hang on a minute, what models have Overwatch in the militia? All I'll say is watch this space. So this one, you might, to begin with, for a little bit of time, you might end up using the flip side of this card, which I'm not going to show you because I'm horrible. But this ability will really begin to make sense somewhere down the line.
Absolutely. Just quickly, while you're doing there, just to catch up on a comment that Florian. So Florian was asking about the ambush ability on Castle's leadership. That will still use the action point because it still counts as a reaction. So it just means that you change the person that's going to react. So if you're going to try and punch them back, it's still an action point.
The way to interpret all of these skills and the rules in general are normal rules apply unless they are specifically called out as being overruled. So when you're reacting, you're using the normal rules for reaction, which includes spending an action point. If you don't, then it'll say you may for free, or this does not cost an action point.
Yeah, absolutely. It's standard rules, guys. You know, unless the card says otherwise, revert to the standard rules.
Okay, so let's move on even further to Akara. She definitely the mounted render made a little bit of a stir. Unsurprisingly,
I heard a few positive comments about it. Not too many,
one or two. And you know, as a surprise to nobody at all, she's got close combat 7. She's 6s, 7 intelligence, only 2 toughness. Interesting. I blacked out the armor, so we don't know what that will be. But unless anybody's really clever and can, you know, do a Blade Runner enhancement on this, good luck with that.
Zoom enhance.
But the Quake Pike is the big news here. 2/4 damage, fairly standard, but knockdown, reach 1, and sunder 2. Don't want to get hit by that really.
Reach 1's an amazing one because, you know, you're going to run into a close combat monster, stand an inch away from them, and go, I trust you to try and roll an agility dodge because otherwise you're in trouble.
Yeah, Yeah, exactly. No, reach is far very useful, I think. Okay, so you can see Akara's 20 points. We've been some of them have had points values, some haven't, and now that knockdown starts to really come into play. So battle cry: any friendly bondsman within 10 inches of this model who declares a charge gains knockdown for that action. So again, another one of these AoE effects. If you're within 10 of her when you declare the charge, you're going to gain knockdown. And I'm going to move straight on to her card, Trample Tactics. While this leader is conscious, if any bondsman model would inflict knockdown on a prone model, instead inflict 1 wound. So you can see we're really stacking the knockdown abilities where if they were already knocked down and you go in, normally it wouldn't do anything. Now it's starting to. It's also worthy of note. That's a wound. It's not damage. No armor roll. You just take it straight off.
Absolutely, yeah. It's you've got a faction, the Bondsmen, where close combat is very much their shtick. So they all want to be getting in there and getting personal. Now they're running in on a charge, knocking somebody on their backside. If it's your first action, your second action, you're automatically doing 1 wound before you even try and roll a dice.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I'm quite excited about this one.
It's going to be a whole new focus on the way that people play the Bondsmen. It's going to be great.
Yeah. So let's have a look at the mounted profile. So you can see that the beast, the mount, has armor 3 and toughness 4. So that's 7s. That's pretty beefy. Yeah. You can see it's pretty slow.
Good luck getting through that. Good luck getting through that. That's a tough hide. That is.
Yeah, it's going to take a lot of firepower to bring that thing down, I think. So close combat 7, as you'd expect, and mighty charge. So
I love this roll.
Another skill
Absolutely love this roll.
Grayed out, but yeah, this one is super fun. As well as being extremely useful. So you may draw your movement path through enemy models and may not be ambushed by silhouette A or C models. So in other words, models on a 30 mil base can't ambush to stop your charge. Any enemy model who during the course of the movement path contacts your base, but is not in base to base contact at the end of your charge. So in other words, the models that you move through, not the model that you are charging or that you end up in combat with, is moved by the shortest route possible out of your movement path, back a further 2 inches in the same direction, so that'll be a 90-degree angle from your movement path, and placed prone. If that model meets a solid surface, it'll stop immediately. If it crosses another model's base, then both will be knocked down. And then at the end of all of that, the model will take half your close combat weapon pass damage, rounding down. So you knock them out the way and then do some damage to them. You can really see her charging across a bridge, knocking stuff left and right with this.
Absolutely. Don't line your guys up because Akara wants to go bowling.
Yeah, pretty brutal stuff there. So there we are. That's actually the end of it. I think we got to the. Yeah, we've got through all 5, haven't we? Yeah,
we have.
So yeah, I guess if anybody's got any questions, do remember, if you're on YouTube, it's in the description below. If you're looking to pre-order any of these, then get those pre-orders in now. The links down there. Simon, what are you looking forward to the most?
Do you know what? I'm the thing I'm genuinely looking for is not necessarily just one. I'm just really looking forward knowing the changes that we're going to see in playstyle. So each of the factions has kind of got their own playstyle, but you got a bit of flexibility. That's still going to be there, but we are really leaning into some extremes in each of these factions now.
Yeah, and I think the general idea here is to create a bunch of interactions between the models that weren't there previously. Now everybody's learnt the game, everybody's got to grips with the basics. We're bringing in some more interesting things so that you can really lean into different tactical builds with your list building and start to get some synergies going. When we have future leaders come out, then we're gonna double down on that even more. And so really probably the combination of a few different things that you're going to pick, including which leader you're taking, will really start to define subtle differences between the play style of Bondsman under Limosk as opposed to Bondsman under Akara. That sort of thing.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, Just to quickly answer one of Achu's question, no, you can't have 2 leaders in the list. The only possible way you could ever get that is if you run Wishbone, but Wishbone has a different profile when you take him as a Wayfarer. So you can only ever have 1 leader in a list.
Yep. Yeah, that's referenced if you go to the list building rules in the website. It's pretty
Absolutely
clear.
Yeah. People are talking about knocking people off the list. I can't wait for somebody to put a couple of people on a bridge and just run a Kara straight across that bridge.
Yeah. So yeah. I mean, I think for me, it's between Plage and Akara for me. I think as far as my the ones I'm most excited to get on the table. As far as I mean, I think Mara might be one of the deadliest.
I think Mara's going to be as stupid as it sounds, the sleeper model here. I think she's going to change up the way the militia play in a very strong way. Suddenly we rather than having that spread out mentality of the militia, I can see tactical squads, almost like SAS working their way through the field.
Yeah, well, I mean, from my perspective, I think I can definitely see a lot of application for Forex mounted still. And so I'd really want, if I was playing in a tournament, I'd really want them both in my model pool. So, there are just times where you want that big stompy robot, able to set stuff on fire, able to just relentlessly move forward and forward and forward, and shrugging off damage. Unsurprisingly, Mara is going to be pretty fragile, but the sort of the application of giving everyone headshot and getting all those rerolls, giving you twice as much chance of rolling a feat with any of those models, it's very strong.
Yeah. So we've got one question on YouTube. Can we say what abilities the models had that we had to change or scrap because it didn't fit?
Ooh, yeah. So actually, I think you go through so many different changes. It's quite hard to remember. Mostly, what happened, I think, just refining what we already started with. So we decide the first version of Mighty Charge was much more damage oriented, much more about damaging the models that you moved through, and it just felt, particularly with her stat line, the mounted leader's stat line, it just felt quite overpowered, and we experimented with just costing it up, and that just felt a bit wrong. Then you started to have a faction where basically you're building the entire list around this super powerful thing that when it goes down, you've got no chance. And honestly, it just made for some not very interesting gameplay where you're just trying to take down the big monster, and when you do it, you've won the game, and if you don't manage it, you lose. I think the only thing that pops to mind for me on Akara is that, we can talk about it because we've shown them. We've realised that toughness 3 armor 4 or toughness 4 armor 3, that's about as high as we should really be going, because apparently an 8 or better save is just too good. Yeah, well, again, then you've just got to look at what you've got in the list that does lots of sunder, and try and make sure you match those things up pretty well. So again, the key to list building really is just to try to what's the right way to put it? Take a Swiss Army knife approach.
Absolutely.
Where whatever you're going to face, and of course in the tournament system where you go with a model pool, then that's all the easier to do, because you just make sure that you've got enough things in the pool to be able to deal with whoever you're likely to face.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think one of the nice things these leaders are going to do, and when you guys get to see the full cards and some of the stuff that we've cunningly hid from you, it's going to be like Christmas morning when you get your packages and see the rest of the stuff coming out, is that we're going to start seeing some of the other models in each of the factions that maybe take a backseat, don't get played so often, because they're going to suddenly have a whole new lease of life under some of these leaders with some of these abilities.
Yeah, I think that's true, and that will continue to be true in the future with other releases. So, basically, what I think the takeaway for me from this release is it's the first release we've had where and really it's the only time it's been possible by having leaders with leader cards which really have a significant effect on the whole faction, where we've been able to really craft a more unique play style for each faction, and we've been able to really jigger around with the way that the game is played. So you have, it still feels like the same game, it still feels like very much the same experience, but the things you're thinking about and the sort of tactics that you're employing are now subtly shifting, and just as the range gets bigger and you have more agency in your list building, I think there are definitely a few Wayfarer models which you might not have taken in a particular faction before, that now you're thinking, oh, actually I can see them being useful in there. Of course, you need to remember friendly model as opposed to friendly faction model. The Wayfarer does not count as a faction model, so some of the synergies won't necessarily work, but some of the leader ability cards are going to work.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think when you start to see some of these factions, I think you're going to see one particular faction, maybe two that I can think of. I'm not going to say, but there's going to be a couple of Wayfarers, maybe a particularly cheap Berengi that's able to throw smoke out that might be really useful in certain lists.
Yeah, absolutely. Good old Arabelle, who I think she sold very well. People loved the model. I don't see her played as much as I was expecting to, considering how inexpensive and useful she is. I think we're going to see her in a lot of Artefactor lists next year.
Yes.
And there might be reasons for that I'm not going to divulge at this stage. But I
can see her being a Bondsman's best friend very soon as well.
Yeah, that too. Those are probably two big factions for her. Yeah. But when we have the Gene Splicers releases, when we actually release the rules for the Gene Splicers and people get those new models out into their factions as well, I think that they're gonna lean into some of these leader abilities and some of the new leader skills that we're seeing, and help out at defining that play style and creating specifics.
Awesome, excellent. Yeah. Actually, Fang Kane with 3 medics around him. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what you need.
Just runs in and murderizes everybody.
Yeah. Excellent. So, Simon, any final thoughts? Any last thoughts or questions from the chat?
No, do you know what? We've got a few comments, lots of positive comments. Christian wants a loan of £300 so he can pick up all the models he's missing.
That's all.
That's all. Exactly. Lot of questions about your chair.
My chair? What about it? Oh, the fact that I sit here swiveling all day.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's soothing.
No, I'm really looking forward to getting these guys on the table. They've been a lot of fun to work on with you, James, and get them to a place where I'm really happy where they're gonna land, and I think we've got a really interesting future play space for the game when these guys hit the ground.
Yep. So when we get the models out to people, we will update the card document to have these in it as well, and at that time we will also re-upload. I know at the moment the leader cards are missing from it. It'll have this style of leader card, so we're moving over. They're just a little bit easier on the eye. There's a bit more real estate, which means from a list building, from a creation design point of view, I've got a little bit more room to work with, which helps as well.
Yeah, it's going to give you guys a lot more tactical capabilities as well. So essentially each faction is going to have one leader specific to each of the 2 leaders, and now you've got a couple of generic options as well. So you've got some real some availability to how you want to tailor the list on a leadership ability as well.
Yeah. In particular, I can see the other the generic militia leader ability. I can see people taking for it. mounted,
Absolutely.
and using that.
Yeah.
Cool. So before we sign off, Simon, anything else in the chat? Anything else?
One last question. I think did we have a play style in mind, or the artwork first for the models?
Oh, it really goes hand in hand. So, and it depends from model to model as well sometimes. So Plage, I had an idea what he looked like when I was writing Drowned Earth in the rulebook years ago. So that concept, the concept of his blink ability, which is related to the armor that he's, or at least the exosuit that he's wearing. Let's bring up the card. Absolutely. Actually. So yeah, you can see that he's sort of wearing an exosuit, and there's some sort of weird sci-fi controls on the handle on his wrist there. So that was very much a case of let's find rules that suit that idea.
Yeah. I've got a real, I get a real Raiden kind of feel for Plage when you look at his model, his lovely hat, and the fact that he can blink, move around everywhere. It's got more combat Raiden written all over it.
I like it. But somebody like Castle, that was all idea first, and thought about what are the best rules for this guy afterwards. Having said that, it was obvious to me that I wanted a much more somebody who worked in a very different way to. In fact, I don't want to say too much about it, but works in a different way to Canada. You'll see what I mean when he's released. And so, but again, Castle as a character existed long before the Drowned Earth original Kickstarter. So yeah, I guess Mara is more the example of I knew what I wanted to do with her mechanically, and I'm also, in order to, I like the model having a sort of good mix of male and female characters, and I knew that the next militia leader was going to be a female, and that we were going to have another female human in the militia, so it made sense to make her the leader. But so that was kind of, so her physicality wasn't necessarily determined by the rules that I'd already thought about in terms of creating a very different type of play style model for her. But what happens really when you iterate on characters is you start off here, but slowly both things marry up until they blend pretty well, because you adjust a little bit of your concept, and then you adjust the rules a little bit as well, and that sort of thing.
Absolutely. So somebody's asked you, is that actually Steven Seagal the monkey?
I'd never thought of it, but actually, so that's another example of what I was going to say next, which is that sometimes the character artist just surprises me a little bit. Like, I give him a brief, I've got a really clear idea in my head. Sometimes he really just pulls it straight out of my head onto the page, and other times it's not quite how I imagined, and often when it's not how I imagine, I'll adjust the rules to match the artwork. So to whoever asked that question, I've really laboured the answer to this question, but it's a little bit of both. It's more often that I start with the idea and design the rules around it, but it can work both ways.
Absolutely. And I think we'll give massive kudos to whoever paints the most outlandish jacket on Castle, just in an ode to Steven Seagal's movies.
I mean, I have to say that there's a lot of very clean painting surface on that jacket. So
absolutely, yeah.
I'm definitely.
I want some crazy coats, because that's what Steven's all about now.
Yeah, love it.
And Christian, with regards to your question on new leaders, Wayfarers, Corsairs. Well, you might have to log into another stream in the future to find out about that.
No. Quickly, actually, that's a good point to finish. I'd like to explain why there isn't a Wayfarer one. The reason why there isn't a Wayfarer leader is because the Wayfarers and Corsairs, the pirate faction from Elia Chronicles that are coming in, are merging to be more or less the same faction. So I think most people know this already, but I'll explain it again. At the moment, the Wayfarers are the mercenary faction. The Wayfarers and Corsairs are going to be completely interchangeable while there is a Wayfarer or a Corsair leader. So they are effectively the same faction, but all of the Corsair, none of the Corsair models can be taken as mercenaries in, let's say, the Artefactors or the Bondsmen. So for that reason, when the Elia Chronicles stuff hits the stores, the Wayfarers stroke Corsairs faction will already have 3 leaders, of whom Dahu will be the mounted version. So it seemed like overkill to have another Wayfarer leader in with this lot.
Absolutely.
So hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah. So as you said, the Corsairs are essentially the same faction as the Wayfarers in the way they run, but you can't put Corsairs into other factions, where the Wayfarers can go to the other factions.
Yeah, and we've got Jay and Dahu for the Corsairs, Wishbone for the Wayfarers. So you've got three choices of leader with that entire model pool. So there's already quite a lot of choice there, I think.
Yeah. A lot of people want to know if you're going to make a non-leader Canada just so Castle can beat him up and move him around the board.
I think the idea of having non-leader versions of the existing leaders or the past leaders isn't something that I've spent much time thinking about. As somebody suggested it a little while ago, and I do quite like the idea. Maybe we'll do it for sort of fluff reasons at some stage in the future. But it wouldn't be Canada, because he is definitely not going to be like playing second fiddle to somebody in the battlefield.
No. Daddy's not going to like that.
No,
Daddy's not going to like
Daddy,
that.
Daddy won't have him ordered around by anyone but Daddy. Cool. So hopefully that was all informative. Everyone had a good time. I'm really looking forward to getting them in everyone's hands. Well, about this time next month, they should be ready. So when you're bored and full of Christmas turkey and desperately need to get away from the family, then you can go up and get some painting done.
Absolutely, yeah. I can't wait to get these guys on sale. That is, knocked it out of the park with these models, James. There's not a single, sculpt that I'm not looking forward to getting some paint on.
Yeah, no, I have to say I'm particularly proud of these sculpts, and I think we've really hit our stride, or I've really hit my stride as far as the as far as model assembly and cuts and that sort of thing is concerned. So I've been learning as we've been going, and originally I was just starting off trusting the sculptors to know what's what, and now I really take a very active hand in that. So some of them, sometimes it's not always possible, but I think when you get these in hand, most of them are very easy assembly jobs.
Definitely, yeah. It's going to be
Cool.
great. It's going to be awesome fun. So yeah.
Excellent. All right, chaps. Well, thank you very much for showing up. I hope you enjoyed. Spread the word, and get those pre-orders in, and perhaps in the new year we'll have a bit of a painting competition for the for new leader best paint jobs.
Steven Seagal coats on Castle now. That's going to have to be a thing.
Oh dear. And yes, I've just seen the last question. They will be added to TTS. I'll try and get that done reasonably quickly after release. So yeah, that shouldn't be too much of a problem.
Not at all. Yeah,
excellent.
TTS has definitely made playtesting a lot easier for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, excellent. Well, thanks very much for that, guys, and see you all soon.
See you soon, guys.